GT Countdown. Top 10 Breakthrough PC Games. Brought to you by Toshiba, the laptop expert.
Fourscore and hundreds of consoles ago, the PC hosted the very first trials of interactive amusement. Since these baby steps, we haven't seen a year that the mouse and keyboard have failed to carve their own distinctive niche in the industry. From obscenely priced hardware to customizable software, the PC represents the zenith of both big-budget tech demos and small-time developer dreams. This era of experimentation led to these 10 breakthrough titles, experiences light years ahead of their time. What would our hobby be like today had these games not given us a glimpse at what was possible?
Number 10. King's Quest.
Released in 1983, King's Quest was a true pioneer for the adventure genre, breaking away from the static art and text that had previously defined it, with an animated protagonist who could actually walk around objects like trees and fences. Gameplay involved interacting with the environment by typing commands and scavenging for items to crack puzzles, often with random humorous solutions. King's Quest spawned 7 sequels and spin-offs like Space Quest and Police Quest, and it paved the way for classics like Maniac Mansion and Monkey Island. The adventure genre has lost popularity in recent years, but as puzzle mechanics survive in modern hits like Resident Evil, while games like Zack and Wiki and Strong Bad's Cool Game for Attractive People suggest that it could very well have a bright future.
Number 9. Alone in the Dark.
The nascent dawn of the third dimension may look simple these days, but through its provocative camera use and a healthy dose of Lovecraftian sensibilities, Alone in the Dark managed to transcend its crude tech with a look that's still arresting to this day. Coinciding with the release of the other demonic phenomenon Doom, it centered on a more gestalt terror, pitting you against both the burned-out bayou estate in which it was set and the bumps in the night that haunted its halls. Here, even the front door could kill, and a creepy trail of documents painted an astonishing occult tale that made the story thrive without sacrificing the constant feeling of isolation and dread. By combining real-time action and a paced adventure, this polygonal harbinger became a must-play. It made the idea of atmospheric immersion a staple for games as a whole, and single-handedly created what's now called survival horror.
Number 8. Half-Life.
Half-Life was a hallmark game in its own right, one that set the benchmark for immersive single-player scenarios defined by striking set pieces, character lip movement, and painstaking scripting. After it came out, it became very hard for FPS designers to get away with the boring old monster closets that previously defined the genre. But that's not the extent of its legacy. Half-Life invigorated and empowered the mod community more dramatically than any game before it. Thanks to Valve's vision in this area, we have a multitude of mods that have left an indelible mark on the industry, including Team Fortress Classic, Day of Defeat, and of course, Counter-Strike. Rare is a game that can influence its successor more than 10 years after its release. Rarer still is one whose user-created byproducts are still packing servers after a decade and change.
Counter-terrorists win. Number 7. Quake.
When it was released in 1996, Quake cracked the games industry open in quite a few significant ways. Primarily, it ushered in the most significant advance in 3D technology the industry had yet seen. As a result of how widely it was licensed, the legendary Quake engine paved the way for many of the best shooters that came after it. Easily as momentous, though, was its focus on online multiplayer gameplay. Its unprecedented execution of this genre-defining feature ensures Quake's place in history. The 90s saw many other breakthrough shooters whose contributions can't be overstated. Many of the ideas that have come to define large-scale, team-focused shooters can be tracked to 1998's Star Siege Tribes. When it comes down to it, the seeds were sown for the modern multiplayer FPS with Quake.
Number 6. Starcraft.
By the late 90s, Blizzard Entertainment had already begun to craft its PC gaming legacy with the success of Warcraft and Diablo. But it wasn't until 1998's Starcraft that the company would launch its first interstellar hit. Introducing the micromanaged madness of the Terran Protoss and Zerg to the world, Starcraft brought genre-defining innovations to RTS gameplay and changed the mod community forever in one fell swoop. It's one thing to be a cornerstone of a respective genre, but to continue being a sensation nearly 10 years after its release, and become Korea's national sport in the process, is something else entirely.
Naturally.
Starcraft is the great measuring stick that all online strategy games hope to live up to, and a true RTS phenomenon.
You want a piece of me, boy?
Number 5. SimCity.
Originally developed as Macropolis for the Commodore 64, Will Wright's SimCity forged a new genre and became a critical and commercial powerhouse.
Simcopter 1 reporting heavy traffic.
Curious players were greeted with the complete freedom to build, manage, and even destroy an entire city with godlike impunity. The title was so successful and influential during its original PC release in 1989 that Nintendo courted Maxis and the visionary Wright to rework the game as a premier launch title for its upcoming Super Nintendo console. The revolutionary simulator would also inspire several sequels and spin-offs, such as Sim Earth and Sim Ant, as well as pave the way for Maxis and EA's blockbuster series, The Sims.
Number 4. Civilization.
Not content with simming a mere city, Sid Meier took both Metropolis Management and World Warfare on a trip through the ages in 1991. Driven by nothing less than global domination and interstellar exploration, everything from the alliances you forged to the legions you deployed all hinged upon layers of advancements you could mix and match, turning the player into the ultimate ambassador or tyrant. Anyone caught watching the sun come up after settling a new continent can attest to the game's ability to make minutes and hours fly by dangerously fast. Several developers had stepped up to the plate with the same idea, but Meier hit a home run. Even imitators after the fact had to contend with the slew of polished sequels and spin-offs that made Civ synonymous with unlimited potential.
Number 3. Ultima Online.
Ultima Online may not have been the first game that could be accurately called an MMORPG, but it was certainly the earliest breakthrough for the genre in terms of commercial success and appeal. Ironic, given how complex and often brutal it was during its early years. But it was Origin's success with Ultima Online that made subsequent mass-market hits like EverQuest and World of Warcraft a viable proposition for risk-conscious publishers. Many of the elements that defined Ultima Online can be found in today's popular MMOs, though perhaps more significant are the ways that the genre has evolved thanks to the game's hard-learned mistakes. Particularly, MMO developers, at least the ones that aspire to mass-market success, are hesitant to allow anything resembling the freewheeling open PvP from Ultima Online's early days. But that doesn't stop some MMO veterans from reminiscing wistfully.
Number 2. Wizardry.
Role-playing games are undoubtedly one of the dominant PC genres today, but the complex mechanics that define them have transcended their roots to become universal gaming concepts. Modern blockbusters like Fallout 3, Mass Effect, BioShock, and even Call of Duty 4 draw on concepts that can be traced all the way back to the pen and paper RPG, Dungeons & Dragons. Wizardry was the first computer game to truly tap into this power, channeling the energy into a fascinating game that was complex, playable, and innovative. After creating a custom party of up to 6 characters, players crawled through dangerous dungeons in one of gaming's earliest first-person views. Its command-driven battle system was the template for nearly every computer RPG that followed. The series can also be considered the godfather of the JRPG, serving as a direct inspiration for Yuji Horíi's seminal series, Dragon Quest.
Number 1. Doom.
Before anyone cries foul, we realize Wolfenstein 3D predates Doom by a year. But the overwhelming social impact created by Doom birthed nearly every other shooter we have today. As a nameless Marine, the intention was to let the player become absorbed in a nightmare full of slashing imps, soldiers driven mad, and grotesque light-spewing cacodemons. Luckily, choice weapons like a flesh-ripping chainsaw helped you cope. Its use of gore provoked controversy, but its deep structure kept it firmly planted in players' hearts. Who can forget the hypnotic ambiance of the looming Grey Mountains, screams, escaping downed enemies, network multiplayer, and support for custom expansions. You have to respect your elders, and Doom is the granddaddy of them all.
Brought to you by Toshiba, the laptop expert.